friends, it's Katie from Lady Red Crafting. If you're looking for budget-friendly, patriotic decor, you're in the right place. Today I'm sharing 4 easy Dollar Tree DIYs to help celebrate America's 250th anniversary with red, white, and blue style. Let's get crafting and create some beautiful patriotic decor for your home. With a few items from the Dollar Tree, we can make a beautiful patriotic wreath. What you'll need is this red, white, and blue ribbon, a wreath frame, and some wood stars. We're going to start out by prepping this wreath frame. And to do that, I'm going to remove the outer rim from this frame. And it was already starting to fall apart, so I was able to pull that circle off pretty easily. It had been in my craft room for some time. Next, I'm going to come in with a little pair of pliers, and I'm just going to snip off the edges here. You may have to bend it a little bit back into place, but it bends back really nicely. Once you have everything prepped and you just have the 2 rows for your wreath form, we're going to go ahead and set this wreath form aside and we'll start prepping our ribbons. Now to prep our ribbons, I'm going to be cutting these ribbons into 10-inch strips. And we're going to need to cut out 30 blue ribbons, 24 red, and 24 white. And they're all going to be in those 10-inch strips. This will take 3 rolls of each of the colors if you buy them from the Dollar Tree. Now that we have our ribbon cut, I'm going to take some pipe cleaners. I'm using brown and white because that's what I had on hand, the white with the white ribbon and the brown with the red and the blue. And to start, I'm going to be taking 3 of the same color ribbon and 1 pipe cleaner, and we're going to make like a little flower bundle of ribbon. So I'm taking these ribbons and I'm going to shape them in a loop. I'm not using any hot glue or anything like that. I'm just going to depend on my pipe cleaner for this. And once I have all of these ribbons done up into loops, there is wire in this ribbon, so that does really help keep everything shaped nicely. I'm going to scrunch these in the center, and then I'll take that pipe cleaner and wrap that around the center. I'll just tie that into place. And once everything is nice and secure, we'll go ahead and fluff our ribbon. And while you're fluffing the ribbon, I twist everything around so you can't see the pipe cleaner in the center. We'll leave the extra tails on the back side because that's how we're going to attach this to our wreath form. Then we're going to repeat the same steps on all of the ribbons that we cut earlier. We're just going to make 3 little loops. Then once we have those 3 loops, we scrunch them together. And then we take our pipe cleaner and make sure everything is nice and attached. Now we fluff our bow. And we have a beautiful piece. We're just going to keep repeating this over and over again until you have all of your pieces done. Now let's go back to our wreath form. I'm taking one of these little ribbon bundles, and with those little pipe cleaner tails, we're going to take those and wrap them around 2 of the wires on our wreath form. And I'm starting out with the 2 inner wires on the wreath form to wrap the first ribbon bundle. And once you have that first ribbon bundle secured, I'm going to grab a second ribbon bundle in the same color, and I'm going to wrap that around the center and the end wire on our wreath form. So we're going to have 2 red ribbon bundles together. Then I'm going to repeat this same step and do 2 white ribbon bundles. And we're just going to continue repeating this step until we've used up all of our red and white ribbon. Now we only have our blue ribbon left, so we're just going to do the same thing where we do 2 on the inside, 2 on the outside, and just go back and forth with the blue ribbon to fill in the remainder of our wreath. Now here is what our wreath looks like so far. I just love the patriotic flag look that this has right now. All it's missing is some white little stars. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those wood stars from the Dollar Tree, those little ones that you can find in the craft or square section, and I'm just going to tape a few down to a paintable surface. I'm just using some painter's tape, and I'm just going to lay down our little stars. We don't need to paint the backside since we're going to be gluing them onto our wreath, so I'm just going to lay them down here and do a nice coat of white chalk paint over the top of these stars. Now that our stars are painted, let's do the final touch. I'm going to add one of these little ribbons here that was left over from making those bundles, and we're going to use that as our hanger. So I'm just going to tie that to my wreath form with a knot at the top and then tie it again to make a loop. Once I have my hanger made, I am then going to take a little bit of hot glue, and we're going to hot glue those stars right on top of our blue ribbons. I'm going to lay them out first, and then once I have them all in place, we'll go ahead and just glue them into place. And that's all there is to it. This beautiful wreath is ready to hang. I just love how this turns out. This is going to be so great on my porch. Every spring, Dollar Tree gets these adorable clay pots. I'm grabbing a 3-pack for $1.50, and we're going to make them over into some fun patriotic decor. Let's take these 3 pots and place them onto a paintable surface. Then we're going to take our white Waverly chalk paint, and we're going to paint the bottom portion of the pots on the exterior. Now, once our pots are painted, we're going to set these aside to dry. Let's go ahead and prep our napkin. This napkin I did get from Home Goods. I absolutely love the white and blue print on this. We're going to take a piece of painter's tape and remove the back 2 layers. And once we have the back 2 layers removed, I'm going to tear this napkin right in half. We're going to use half of this napkin for one of the pots. So we'll need 1.5 napkins to do all 3 pots. Now I'm going to be taking my Mod Podge in hard surface Mod Podge. We're going to be painting a nice coat of Mod Podge on the front half of this pot. Then we're going to go ahead and lay that napkin right over the top, and it's going to sit right underneath the rim of the pot here, because the rim of the pot we're not going to decoupage. We are going to be painting that later on. Now let's go ahead and grab our cling wrap, and I'm going to take a piece of cling wrap and layer that on top of our napkin, and then smooth everything in place on top of the wet Mod Podge. Now I'm using this egg carton underneath me here. This is a really good tool to use when you have a cylinder piece that you need some extra hands to help you hold things. So now that our decoupage is in place by using that little piece of cling wrap, we're going to go ahead and let this dry. Now once our piece has dried, I'm going to actually tear off the excess napkin here, and we're just going to use I'm using my thumb actually, and I'm just kind of holding down the napkin on the piece where the decoupage is. And we're just going to remove that excess napkin as much as we can. If there's a little extra, that's no big deal. We'll come back in with our sander a little bit later. Next, we're just going to reposition our pot on our egg carton here, and then we're going to find another piece of that napkin to make sure it's going to fit and cover the other half of our pot. Once we have a good piece of napkin that's going to fit and everything is ready to go, we will go ahead and paint a little bit of Mod Podge over the top of the painted area on the pot. And then we're going to go ahead and layer that napkin right over the top of that wet Mod Podge. And now that we have our napkin layered over the top, I'm going to grab a piece of cling wrap and layer that right on top of my napkin. And then we're just going to go ahead and smooth that napkin into place. That cling wrap really helps keep you from over pushing on the napkin, so it keeps you from tearing it when you're rubbing that into that wet Mod Podge. And once you are satisfied, I just go ahead and lay this down back on top of my egg carton and let this dry. Now, once our piece is dried, I am going to come in with my little zip sander and sand off any excess napkin. Now let's go ahead and use our Mod Podge and do a nice sealing coat over the top of our napkin. And once this is all sealed, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same steps on the other two pots, because I want to make a trio set of these pots. So now that all three pots are decoupaged, I am going to come in with my Flamingo Red from Apple Barrel. And we're going to take that Flamingo Red from Apple Barrel and we're just going to paint the rims on these pots. Now, once all the rims have been painted, I am going to let this dry. I did end up doing 2 coats of this red paint to get the color that I wanted. So now that our clay pots are painted, decoupaged, and ready to go, I'm going to come in with my Waverly chalk paint in the color white, and I'm going to just do a really light dry brush around the perimeter. I feel like this really blends that red in with the white and the blue napkin, because I don't want it to stand out too much, but I definitely want it to give that red, white, and blue vibes. And now that our clay pots are complete, we are going to come in with some Rust-Oleum clear enamel. I'm going to take these little pots outside and we're going to spray them down with that sealer. This is really going to help protect them from the weather if you decide to use these outdoors. And now that our pots are sealed, here is what they look like. I just love this set. This gives a really good patriotic vibe, but also has a really classy vibe to it, so you can kind of transition with it throughout the whole entire summer. These would be great for little pots of flowers to put on a table, or you could add a solar light to the top of each one of these. This is such a fun and easy little project you can do for your outdoor decor. We're using some of our Waverly chalk paints and our Waverly Antique Wax for this. I'm using the Waverly Antique Wax and I'm going to stain a paint stick, a pallet from the Dollar Tree, and a little wood star. Now, once our pieces have dried, I'm going to flip over that little pallet and using a little bit of wood glue, this I just got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to add a little wood glue down the center of the back side of the pallet. We're then going to lay that paint stick right over the top of that wood glue and let that sit for a few minutes. And then I'm going to grab just 2 of my little clips from the Dollar Tree and I'm just going to add that to either end and just hold that into place. Now, while that glue is drying, let's go ahead and take that little star that we had earlier, and I'm going to put that down onto a paintable surface. And using some Waverly chalk paint in the color white, I'm going to dry brush over the top of this star. Now, going back to our little wood sign here, I'm taking a staple gun and I'm just going to add 2 staples, one at the top and at the bottom of my piece. This is the shortest staple that I could find. I believe it's just right underneath 1/4 inch. Next, I'm going to be taking my Waverly chalk paint in the color Ocean, and we're going to be dry brushing a little square at the top of our piece here. So it's just going to be those 2 top rows on that wood slat, and we're just going to do it just like you would an American flag. As you probably guessed, we're going to come back in with some red crimson paint here. This is from Waverly as well. And we're just going to dry brush 2 of our stripes for our flag using that crimson paint. And last but not least, we're going to come in with our white chalk paint from Waverly and paint our last 2 stripes. And for our final step, I'm going to take that wood glue and we're going to attach the star that we painted earlier onto our piece. I'm just going to put a little bit of that wood glue on the star first and then position it over the blue section of our flag. Then to make sure that the star stays in place, I did use one of my paint clips to clamp it down and let it dry. And now that our piece is dry, it is ready to display. I'm going to take this outside and put this in one of my flower pots on my front porch to show some patriotic cheer. This is such a fun project to do. I think this would be great in a group setting, or if you're just sitting around the campfire and wanted something to paint. Next time you're at Dollar Tree, pick up one of these stars and stripes decor pieces. Once you get home, go ahead and deconstruct your piece. We're going to remove those 2 stars and the tag. The tag we'll save for a later project, probably for a Christmas in July, and the little stars we are going to be using for this project. To remove the stars, I'm just using a flathead screwdriver and a pair of pliers. Now that we have our piece taken apart, I'm going to go ahead and prep my napkin. This napkin I did get at Home Goods. I just love the blue and white paisley look on this. We're going to go ahead and just remove the back 2 layers, and I do this by using a little piece of painter's tape. And for some reason on this napkin, that second layer was a little bit rough to pull off, but I was able to finally remove that back layer. And now that our napkin is prepped, let's go ahead and grab that white star. Yes, we're going to decoupage this onto this white star. Don't worry about the raised edges on this. There's a trick to doing this. So for my first step, I'm just going to add that white star onto a disposable plastic tray. Then we're just going to lay down that napkin right over the top of the star. I'm just going to kind of press down where I want it to hit. For this step, I'm going to be using Mod Podge, and I'm using the hard surface Mod Podge for this. We're going to take that Mod Podge and we're going to paint over the top of the napkin so that way it can soak down into the piece. And we're just going to paint in long strokes on our little star here until it smooths out over the top of the star. It just kind of melts right into the star by doing this. Then we're just going to let this dry for a little bit. Now that this has dried, I am going to come in with some scissors and I'm just going to trim some of that napkin off of our star here, just kind of around the perimeter. There still will be a little bit left over, which is fine because we're going to want to take some more of that Mod Podge here in a minute. And what you'll see here is that we're going to flip this star over and you'll notice that there's a little ledge along the perimeter of this star. So we need to go ahead and decoupage our napkin onto that little edge here. So to do this, what I'm doing here is I'm just going to add a single cut on the tissue paper so that way we're able to fold up the napkin so it'll hit that ledge and then we can just paint it down using that Mod Podge over the top. So we're just going to fold it down over the edge and then we're just going to use that Mod Podge to seal it in place. And then once we have everything sealed down, we're going to let that dry. Once that has dried, I'm taking my cling wrap here and I'm just going to take the cling wrap over the top and I'll use that to smooth any wrinkles that may appear on our piece. If you do this 20 minutes after things have dried, it hasn't quite cured yet and it makes it really easy to remove any of those excess wrinkles. Now we're going to go ahead and grab our zip sander. You can use a sanding block if you have that or a piece of sandpaper. And I'm just going to sand off any excess napkin from our star. So now that our star is complete, I'm going to go back and grab that red star that we also had from earlier. And then we have our decoupage star, and I'm going to place this on this wood blank that I found at a thrift store, but it looks like it may have come from either Hobby Lobby or Ben Franklin. So this piece, I just am using the backing on it. I like the whitewash look because I think it made it look very nice, so I didn't need to do any painting. So we're going to attach these stars using our Type Bond Quick and Thick glue, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the backside of each of these stars. And then we'll go ahead and place them on our piece. Now we just need to let this dry for a little bit, and our piece will be ready to hang. I just love how this simple little piece from the Dollar Tree is elevated with just a little napkin and some decoupage. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this content, don't forget to hit that like or subscribe button. Thank you. Thank you for spending part of your day crafting with me. I hope these patriotic DIYs inspired you to decorate your home with red, white, and blue. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video with a crafty friend. Have a wonderful day, and please remember, craft more, stress less.